I feel like, I don't believe in astrology or luck or circumstance, but
Okay.
I think crypto got like too high on its own supply post-election, and then now we're having this like tragedy of calamities. It's like karmic type of It's like it was like, you know what I mean? It's just like it just feel like we've been rolling downhill nonstop for 3 weeks. Like as soon as Melania, the second meme coin, hit the Solana blockchain, it was like all downhill.
Not a dividend.
It's a tale of two clans.
Now your losses are on someone else's balance sheet.
Generally speaking, airdrops are kind of pointless anyways.
Unnamed trading firms who are very involved.
Alec.eth is the ultimate pun.
DeFi protocols are the antidote to this problem.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Chopping Block. Every couple of weeks, the four of us get together and give the industry insider's perspective on the crypto topics of the day. So quick intros. First, we got Tom, the DeFi maven and master of memes.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we got Robert, the crypto connoisseur and czar of Superstate.
Let's get ready to crypto.
Wow.
Next, we've got Tarun, the gigabrain and grand poobah at Gauntlet.
Yo.
And I'm Haseeb, the head hype man at Dragonfly. So we're early stage investors in crypto, but I want to caveat that nothing we say here is investment advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Please see choppingblock.xyz for more disclosures. Holy shit, you guys. It's been another just absolutely chaotic, just down bad kind of week. So actually, markets have been surprisingly resilient through all of this craziness over the last week. But just the amount of just sheer unadulterated stupidity and chaos that we're seeing in just what's going on in the crypto industry. Let's get into it because we've got a lot of news that we want to cover. So first, I want to start with the news of today, the day that we're recording, which is Friday. The big news is that we just had the largest crypto hack in history. So Bybit, which is any given day probably the number 2 in dollar terms, any given day probably the number 2 exchange in the world by volume is Bybit. As for caveat, Dragonfly is an early investor in Bybit Series A. So Bybit, basically they announced as of early this morning, late night Asia time, that they got hacked for $1.5 billion in their ETH cold wallet. So what was happening was that they were transferring money from their cold wallet to their hot wallet, which is a standard thing that happens when exchanges rotate to be able to meet withdrawals. And apparently, so they used a multisig. So they had ledgers, they had a multisig using Safe. And when they signed the transaction that it showed on the front end was not the same transaction that all of the different signers saw on their own machines. So this looks actually very similar to hacks that it took place against WazirX and against Radiant Capital, which led many people to believe that maybe this attack pattern looks like the Lazarus group, which is the offshoot of North Korea that's involved in many of the biggest hacks in crypto, including the Axie Infinity hack that happened a few years ago. It was just confirmed by ZachXBT that in fact, this does look like it's the Lazarus group. So $1.5 billion in ETH was drained. Within 30 minutes, Ben, the CEO of Bybit, went on Twitter, confirmed that the hack had happened, basically announced that, look, we have the balance sheet to cover this. We're totally fine. We'll be able to meet all redemptions. He jumped on a live stream, which is the first time I've ever seen that, jumped on a live stream within about 30 minutes of announcing the hack. He was looking very clean cut, despite the fact that it was basically like past midnight in Singapore. Sorry, he's not in Singapore. I think he's in Abu Dhabi. And so it was way middle of the night. But he basically came on there, told everybody, look, we're totally good. We're still meeting all withdrawals. There's a liquidity crunch on ETH, but we've secured a bridge loan, which looks on-chain like it came from Binance and BitGet. But they basically said, look, Binance is solvent. Even if the hack is not recovered, all of the client's assets are backed one-to-one. So far, it looks like there's been obviously a wave of redemptions that have come in. But as of right now, it's about 1:40 Pacific time. It looks like about, call it 15 to 17% of Bybit's total assets were withdrawn from the exchange as of now. Now it's been about, call it 6 hours roughly since the hack. So it looks like the outflows have roughly stabilized, and markets seem to be pretty confident that Bybit is okay. And so it looks like this overall attack, you also saw that a lot of people came out of the woodwork. CZ, the BitGet guys, many of the other exchanges came out in support of Bybit, which is obviously very different than what happened with FTX. So many people analogize this to FTX. It doesn't look like it's an FTX situation with respect to them being able to meet redemptions. And also just the fact that Bybit has like $20 billion plus, actually originally about 25 billion in client assets that now, of course, with 1.5 billion missing, it's fairly understandable that they'd be able to meet a lot of the outflow demand with just the assets they have remaining on balance sheet. But despite that, it's been a really terrible day for the industry to see the biggest hack in history. And the fact that this is North Korea, or it's all but confirmed that this is North Korea, also means that we don't really know what to expect. It's not very likely that North Korea is going to mess up. It's not very likely they're going to move their assets to a centralized exchange. The assets have all been sitting completely in ETH, and they've not moved. Presumably because the North Korea knows that everybody in the world is now tracking these assets, and it's way too large of a sum of money to be able to fence this kind of money in Tornado Cash or anything like that.
I thought they bridged some of it to Solana. I read that could be misinformation.
No.
Yeah, that was misinformation. It is split across many addresses, and they were moving in and out of like staked ETH and stuff like that, but it's still on Ethereum in some form.
Yeah, so they sold, originally they had METH and STETH, which is Lido ETH. METH is Mantle ETH. And they immediately swapped all of those through DeFi into just ETH. And presumably the reason why I'd have to guess would be because ETH is the most liquid and ETH is the least freezable. Right. So if you're in some alt that's like, Ethereum pegged, you can imagine that maybe governance goes and does something and shuts you down. Whereas with Ether, there's really no way to turn off the tap.
Well, the Ether is not programmable, right? There's very little hooks on it.
Right. Exactly. And despite the fact that this is the largest hack in dollar terms in crypto history, nobody's even contemplating a hard fork or anything like that. I think it's pretty clear that one thing that we've seen as a pattern from these kinds of hacks is that when the hack amount is really big, it just becomes really hard for the attacker to actually get away with it. Like, ironically, if you steal $20 million, $30 million, there's a good chance it's gone. You're not going to get that back. You steal $1 billion and where's it going to go? Who's going to fence that for you? If you're North Korea, what can you do with $1 billion in ETH?
I mean, I don't know what they're doing with these giant hack war chests of theirs. I'm sure there's some online sleuths that have been following it over the years, but I assume, their hope is that at some point they'll trade it to Russia for oil or something.
Yeah. I mean, I just think with that sum of money, it's just so big, you can't hide it, right? Like you try to mix it, it's going to completely overwhelm the mixers.
Do you guys remember that Richard Hart, who I guess was under indictment by the SEC, but then who knows if that still exists? But do you remember he was the largest DAI holder because he had so much ETH from Pulse Chain and basically was blacklisted from a lot of exchanges. So he just converted all of it to DAI. So I actually wonder if we're going to see kind of this is a good test of hey, do attackers trust decentralized stablecoins enough to go from ETH?
There's not enough liquidity. There's not enough liquidity. How are you going to swap $1 billion on chain?
I don't think they're going to do it all at once. But my point is Hart entered in it very slowly over a long time window to become the largest DAI. It wasn't just he YOLO'd it all at once. So
right.
I think this is an interesting case study to see if that happens. Obviously, I'm not trying to say this is a good thing. I'm just saying this is a precedent.
I mean, even if you do, okay, now what are you going to do with $1 billion of DAI? How are you going to fence that?
Right. I'm not saying that I have an answer for you. I'm just saying that it will be a case study in a way of which stablecoin has the most confidence from the person who is most locked out of the financial system.
Well, it really comes down to what's the financial volatility risk tolerance of the hacker, right? Richard Hart swapped out of Ether. Ether itself is censorship resistant. He just wanted a stablecoin instead for some reason, right? I guess he didn't want the
he did buy a lot of LVMH stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
so he had dollar-denominated expenses.
Right.
It's probably a good trade, actually.
Exactly. So does North Korea want Ether, or do they want stables? I don't know. My guess would be that n equals 2 here. There's very few massive scale hackers, and there's not enough data for you to write a paper on the risk preferences of major hackers.
But I'm just saying we're setting ourselves up for this natural experiment that's going to probably happen.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the most censorship resistant asset, if you're thinking about, okay, I'm North Korea, how do I fence this? How do I get this to Russia and turn this into cash?
Well, they've
it's either Bitcoin or Ether.
They've historically tried to bridge some to Bitcoin using the tools available, but I think right now there's not that many good decentralized ways to go from Ether to Bitcoin anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, all these things, if they're secured by multisig, if somebody sees that their protocol is being used to fence $1 billion of Ether, I think a lot of people would just be yeah, okay, cool. We're commandeering this. This is going to be seized, and then governance is going to put this into the hands of law enforcement. 100%. This is one of these situations where nobody is on the side of North Korea. No protocol, no anything.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, really, the only option is something that doesn't have a hook, which DAI versus USDS, that was part of the point, right? There's no more, there's no free function USDS versus DAI. I think
all I'm saying is like this. I suspect we will see some very crazy on-chain behavior here because this, like, what else can you do? Like, also the other thing that's crazy to me is Thorchain going down is actually a very funny thing because a lot of the hacks in the past would get to Bitcoin via either Thorchain lending or Thorchain's bridge, but like now all the Thorchain validators are left, so like I would not send a huge amount of money across it, right? Like the Thorchain market cap's so low, so the bridges to Bitcoin are actually significantly worse than during times of previous hacks. So I actually think they're kind of stuck where they are now that I think about it. Sorry,
well, I think of this like in the olden days where the pirates would hold treasure chests of gold and they would bury it, and then like make a treasure map and draw an X on it and come back like 30 years later. I feel like North Korea is just going to have these treasure chests of stolen illegal crypto that what are they in a rush to use it for? It's like they might just like keep it buried, with like a treasure map with the X on it for like 30 years. And come back to it later.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. I mean, you might predict that maybe they have some kind of agreement that, hey, if you return the funds, we'll give you a 10% bounty on some assets that are clean. But I don't know how you would make the assets clean, right? And like the fact that North Korea is such a pariah state may make it harder for there to be any kind of deal, because which ultimately is like really bad for customers. Or bad for Bybit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt them. If you have a sense of what the revenues of these exchanges are, I don't doubt them that they're fine, that they have the surplus to be able to handle it, although they don't have it in Ether. So what many people have been speculating, and this is one of the things that Ben was addressing on the live stream, was whether or not they're going to buy ETH in order to make all the redemptions whole. And right now they have this bridge loan, which looks like it's coming from BitGet and from Binance. Which again is a very good sign because this is not what happened with FTX. But you might well ask the question like, okay, well, look, if your mental model of North Korea is that nobody can really do business with them, there's no way to do a deal, there's no way to do any recovery, then that probably means that maybe they do have to go buy that amount of ETH. And if they do, maybe that's weirdly bullish Ethereum, that somehow you just ended up having 1.5 billion of net buy pressure. And of course, they got to chase it up, right? So, as they keep buying, like there's not that much liquidity, and so price of ETH goes up as they're buying.
Yeah, I mean, that when you said no one's on the side of North Korea, I have seen some people on crypto Twitter being like, "Oh man, this might be so good for Ether." Like, come on, North Korea, burn it all. Like, send it to the burn address, please.
Ethereum actually does have a long history of being pro North Korea, so I feel like that's actually
Who is that?
Virgil? He is out though. He is out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I have to say, I was sort of new to crypto Twitter when he was tweeting about that, and I was like, who are these crazy people who are like trying to teach North Korea how to use GPUs? Like, why am I on this part of the universe? And then I realized that was like 90% of ETH Twitter at that time.
Yeah.
I've also I've noticed a lot of empathy for Bybit. I mean, I think masterclass in comms in terms of communicating directly, quickly, live stream, very cool. I've never seen anyone do that. But also just speaking in very concrete terms and not equivocating. I feel like so many people default to corp speak in these kinds of situations and be like, oh, we're evaluating the incident. And I think Ben just got out there and be like, no, we're good. We're going to make people whole. Here's what's happening. And I think that was great. But also, I mean, the hack itself, I think there was some misunderstandings floating around, but like, it's like you said, very similar to the Radiant Capital and the WazirX hacks, which are very sophisticated and difficult to protect against. Really these are, probably, I mean, from the Radiant Capital debrief, they're like, machine level vulnerabilities. And unless you are really going through and looking at every single hash, and it's very hard for safe transactions, multi-sig transactions to validate those, like it's just a very, you can follow so many of the best practices, 95% of the best practices in crypto and still miss this. So I know there's a lot of empathy for the Bybit team too.
Yeah, it really was absolutely masterful. If you compare that to like what FTX was like, I mean, we were all there. We were like live streaming that shit. And FTX was just an absolute joke compared to how Bybit handled this.
What?
So I think...
Well, FTX was fraud. Okay, like the fundamental difference here is you have a bad actor, FTX, that was doing lots of fraud, which is why they didn't have the money, and then you have a plausibly good actor who got hacked and is a victim, right? Like these are like not even in the same arena. You have the bad guy and you have a victim, and like they're just totally opposite sides of the coin.
Totally. I think you also see it though with hacks generally, right? So I think most people's instinct when they get hacked. So I mean, unfortunately, getting hacked is kind of a rite of passage in crypto. Most people, when they get hacked, their instinct is to say something very obscure and vague, and like don't directly address it, and let the story kind of brew through other channels, right? So other people are talking, like other people are breaking the story, other people are talking about what it means, other people are tracing everything on chain and contextualizing the story, because of course everybody wants to know what the fuck is happening. And so Bybit just coming out immediately within 30 minutes of this thing being posted online, we're like, yes, it happened. Here's what happened. Here's what happened to us. We're going to go live and we're going to explain to all of our customers what's going on, and everything's good. Like that, to me, it's like, okay, that's what everybody should be doing. When there's a hack, first thing to do is to own the communication. And like, you know, it's going to, like everybody who's been in crypto for long enough has gotten hit at some point by something. Now, this is obviously, you know, a sort of a 3 sigma event with respect to the size of the hack, but relative to the strength of the balance sheet. Yeah, but I mean, relative to the strength of the balance sheet, the other thing to recognize is crypto is a lot bigger today than it was in the past, right? So, you know, on a relative basis, I think this is probably like, it's definitely the biggest hack ever, but relative to their balance sheet, it's actually, you know, there's a lot of hacks where the entire balance sheet of a company was taken out or all the assets were stolen. And that's very, very far from the case here, where it's closer to a couple percent.
Speaking of FTX too, I mean, Bybit started a proof of reserve system post FTX where you could check your inclusion in their Merkle root, and it was all very transparent. And so you could go on and see, like, yeah, they actually did have the customer assets. You know, again, there's no fraud involved; it was just a hack. But there was not a concern that there would be some huge gap in the balance sheet as a result of this.
Yeah. So to be honest, I was kind of hoping that evidence would point toward this being some kind of insider attack.
You were hoping?
Just because it's more likely that you're going to be able to recover the assets if it's an insider.
That's true.
But
That's true.
If it's North Korea, then this is kind of a worst case scenario. So heart goes out to the Bybit team, and it's always unfortunate to see stuff like this. But thankfully, I think the industry is in a strong enough place that they'll be able to bounce back and make sure that everybody's okay. So we'll hopefully check back in on this next week and see how Bybit is holding up by then.
I feel like, I don't believe in astrology or luck or circumstance, but
Okay.
But I think crypto got like too high on its own supply post-election, and then now we're having this like tragedy of calamities. It's like karmic type of It's like it was like, you know what I mean? It's just like it just feel like we've been rolling downhill nonstop for 3 weeks. Like as soon as Melania, the second meme coin, hit the Solana blockchain, it was like all downhill.
All right. Well, speaking of the Solana blockchain,
on
we got
Solana.
another.
And this is not,
we got some more meme coin news that we have to share with our audience.
This is not a dig at Solana. Solana has actually performed well as a blockchain. It's just more like the stuff on it.
Well, I think that's
what we're about to cover.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the other major story of the week, which at this point, I'd be surprised if most people have not gotten some wind of this. But there's this new story around a coin called the Libra. So this is not the Libra that you might remember from Facebook. This is a new Libra, which is an Argentinian state-sponsored meme coin. It was backed by Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, who's himself a controversial figure for very other reasons. But this has been dubbed the biggest insider trading scandal since FTX. So what happened with the Libra? So first, Javier Milei promoted the Libra token through a tweet. This happened very suddenly. Nobody was expecting this to happen. This token, this meme coin called Libra, quickly ballooned to hit a $4 billion market cap, and then subsequently crashed 95%. As the meme coin was crashing, Milei deleted his tweets. Once there was news that the insiders from this token were selling into the frenzy, and they sold on the order of, I believe almost $200 million of cash that they ended up selling into this rally. And a bunch of other craziness was pointed out after this thing wound down. So first Milei then later tweeted again about the project, then later deleted the second tweet. But there was just a bunch of confusion about, okay, what the hell is this? Is this Milei's meme coin? Is this the Argentinian government's meme coin? So it later came to light that this, Milei himself did not have any financial interest directly in this meme coin. Neither did the Argentinian government. This was a private company that was an Argentinian company that was launching this meme coin that supposedly was going to be for the good of the Argentinian people and or the Argentinian community. It was all quite vague. So there's this figure that appears at the center of the story, who's this guy, this white dude named Hayden Davis. Okay,
not to be confused with
Hayden Davis. Yes, not to be confused with the crypto Hayden, who's the founder of Uniswap. This is so Hayden Davis is the CEO of what's called Kelsier Ventures. Okay, and I should reiterate because it appears later in the story. He is the whitest guy you've ever seen. All right, he went to Liberty University.
Let's not bring
international
race
business.
Into this is
it shows up. It comes back. It comes back. Okay, so it turns out Hayden Davis is a meme coin businessman, I think is the best way to describe it. He's a meme coin. He's not a promoter and he's not a launcher. He's a facilitator is the way that he put it in one of his interviews. So there's he explained this in an interview with CoffeeZilla, who's a big YouTuber who covers a lot of scams. And he explained that there's a whole host of characters that goes into actually launching a meme coin. And his role in the meme coin supply chain is very specific. He's a facilitator. So he brings all the parties together, but he is not himself responsible for pressing the buttons. He's not himself, he doesn't himself own the treasury. He doesn't himself, do the promotion. He's just kind of the guy who brings everyone together and facilitates, right? So he apparently has been known as being an insider actor in the Argentinian crypto scene. And he's bragged in private texts that were later leaked about paying Milei's sister, Karina Milei, who's also a prominent figure in Argentinian politics. And in a tweet to somebody about his control over Javier Milei through his sister, he wrote, "I control that N-word. I send money to his sister and he signs whatever I say." Now I should note both Hayden is white and Javier Milei is white. Everybody involved here is white. So apparently he was in control of the $100 million plus that was extracted from the insider wallets that were dumping. And he later, after doing a bunch of seemingly guilty interviews, kind of SBF style, he sort of came out and started doing all these interviews, did one interview directly in a tweet stream. Then he did one with Portnoy, who we talked about last time on the show. And he also did one with CoffeeZilla. And in these interviews, he basically admits, one, everything went horribly wrong. Two, he sniped the Libra coin himself and or instructed the people who were running the bots to snipe the coins. He basically completely explained how all of this stuff works. The whole supply chain, how these meme coin launches come together. Apparently Dave Portnoy invested $5 million into Libra. And when he lost almost all of that $5 million, Hayden personally refunded Portnoy the $5 million.
Well, I don't know if personally is the right word. He took the money, the proceeds from the scam.
Well, he claims he did it personally. He claims this was not from the proceeds. I don't know if this is confirmed, but this was what he claimed.
But where does the money come from? I mean, his business is launting meme coins.
Okay, from his business generally, right? But not from the $100 million multi-sig that was specifically responsible for sniping the Libra. So he claimed, I don't know whose money this is. I thought this belonged to Argentina. Or maybe this belongs to, the KIP protocol, which is the company in Argentina that launched this. I don't know whose money this is. I don't want it. I'm stuck with it. I control it. You tell me what to do. If you don't tell me what to do, I will just, according to him, dump it back into the chart, which means to just buy the meme coin, to buy more of the meme coin using all of the money they have in reserves. Okay, just a little bit more I want to add here. From the interview on CoffeeZilla, he broke down a lot of how meme coins work, and I want to talk through it because I think it's really, really fascinating, kind of lifting up the curtain that most people have not seen. So the first thing he says is that most meme coin big launches happen only after private deals take place, in which a huge part of the supply is bought or given to KOLs and other entities at a lower market cap than whatever it launches at. So any big meme coin launch, such as Melania, such as Libra, such as, and this includes even Trump. He claimed that the Trump token, there was a private round that happened at $500 million at an insider meeting in DC where all of this was communicated to people in advance. He claims that there's a lot of these deals where these things are shared with so many insiders and KOLs that it leaks very often to other parties who are not even in the deal. And those parties who it leaks to are the people who end up sniping the tokens. Now, we have to explain sniping. What is sniping? Sniping is when you launch a token, and before any human beings ever have a chance to respond, a bunch of bots immediately buy up the token and drive up the price to a very large amount because they know that this meme coin is going to be a big launch. And then after retail starts actually buying up the token, human reaction times are much slower than what you can do with bots. Those snipers then sell back into all the demand that comes in. And so they end up profiting a huge amount, basically just by being first to buy the token. And because these meme coins often launch at a low market cap, that's possible, right? There's no auction, there's no initial clearing price that the meme coin is initially launched at. So from the mouth of Hayden Davis, he said, how else would you make money? If you're not sniping your own token, like what else do you think you're supposed to do? He claimed that all these entities, everybody involved in the supply chain, believe that the only way to make big bucks is to be insiders in a rigged game. The groups that have these big hyped launches, they say that they hope to see the meme coin live for hopefully 1 to 2 years. But the reality is that almost every meme coin lasts no more than a few days. And there's a widespread cynicism among these groups that basically all of crypto is useless, that this is all just a zero-sum game. And the only way to protect retail is for the teams to do the sniping themselves. Because otherwise, the retail is just going to get sniped into. And so them, as the promoters of the coin, as the good guys, if they snipe first, they can use the proceeds that they get from sniping to help protect the coin. And once the sniper's dumped, they can buy back in. So that's the picture. This has all been a huge scandal. The moment that this unfurled, the Argentinian stock market dropped more than 5%. And there have been charges now brought by the opposition party against Javier Milei. This is called, within Argentina, this is called Cryptogate. It is a massive scandal. And in Argentina, I think they've basically seen a huge pockmark on their reputation, both internationally and domestically, because of this scandal. So I'll stop there. There was obviously a huge dump of information. Did any of you guys actually see any of the interviews that Hayden did?
I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
I watched some of the clips of Portnoy, and I mean, come on, each one was more ridiculous than the next. This guy is this is worse than Avi, who hacked Mango Markets, going and doing a publicity tour, being like, I'm the good guy, I'm a smart trader. Hayden is worse. Hayden is worse by an order of magnitude. He's getting on these things and just saying crime is good.
He's just a quintessential crypto fuckboy. It's kind of the most kind of just completely amoral person. And you can just tell from his response that he's flabbergasted that anybody would not be on his side.
I mean, do you remember when we came up with the hinged to unhinged scale on the chopping block 9 months ago or something like that? Yeah. Hayden of Kelsier Ventures might be actually one of the farthest out on the unhinged scale in the history of the industry. And that's saying a lot.
What was your reaction? It seems like you saw a lot of this content.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hayden, just from hearing him speak, you can tell he's kind of unintelligent. I actually had a very weird announcement. I was obviously out last week. I was skiing, and randomly, this guy I was skiing with had heard this was happening because he has some employees in Argentina, and I was like, okay, this sounds kind of stupid. Some of the people we were skiing with were also Argentinian, and they were very jazzed about it. And so I actually feel a lot of empathy, because it's these are, I'm guessing in their minds that they thought this was going to be similar to Trump, right? Whereas this big, I feel like Trump, when it came out, there was not a lot of flack other than people in crypto. People thought it was kind of cool, and he was promoting it, and they had this site, and they thought, oh, this is going to be our Trump coin moment. And then obviously it was turned into this huge scandal. And so it was just, I had very bizarre, it was very offline for most of last week, and coming back, just seeing the shit show was not the most welcome. But I think there's a great clip of Milei being interviewed where he dropped effectively, there's no crying at the casino was the quote. And I thought that was...
what a many ridiculous quotes.
Yeah.
What was the quote?
The truth is, if you go to the casino and you lose money, whose fault is that? It was basically what he said, and then people reappropriate. This is the Spanish version of "There's no crying in the casino."
Wow, that's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, it's so bizarre to just see how big. First of all, how much, how big the ripple effects from just a stupid fucking meme coin has been. That it just a whole country is now being rocked by a stupid meme coin. And I feel bad for the people of Argentina, because how is it that this just consummate grifter ends up being the guy closest to the president who represents the crypto industry, and it's hey, if you're going to promote something in Argentina, here, promote this stupid piece of shit, instead of all that. Argentina has such a long history in being pro crypto and cypherpunk, and being in the, I remember in the very, very early days of crypto, a lot of stuff happening in Buenos Aires as being one of these centers of DAI and Ethereum and what's the Open Zeppelin, I think, aren't they from Argentina? It's really been one of these cultural centers for crypto innovation.
Yeah.
Well,
And
the
then
funny,
you get,
the funny,
you get this
the
guy.
funny, the funny thing is like there were like people on Twitter, and I don't know enough about this. I just kind of was going, but I guess like a bunch of like Vitalik and some other researchers were in Argentina for Cremientos, which is like this Ethereum developer kind of event in Buenos Aires. And I think they like tried to meet Malay, and he didn't want to meet them before or something. They were like,
It's because they didn't give his sister a bunch of money.
That's probably what it is.
Something like that. But then Vitalik was like, "Hey, maybe we'll have Dev Connect, which is one of the big conferences that like people have been pushing to try to be in Argentina." And Malay retweets it and is like, "Yes, look, we're happy that people are like bringing smart developers to our country and appreciating our talent." So I thought it was funny. Like if the kind of hearsay that like they tried to meet with Malay and he kind of brushed them off or told them to fuck off, and then now he's like trying to embrace everyone in Ethereum. I think that's a pretty funny like about face post Memecoin.
So part of this scandal has also rippled, of course, through the crypto world. So it was proven that the team behind Kelsier Ventures was also responsible for the Melania token, and they were also the snipers who sniped the Melania token as it was going. Yeah, so basically, this is a playbook that they've run again and again and again. Now, part of what's interesting about the story is that it also ended up affecting some of the folks in the Solana universe. So, of course, Meteora, which was the platform that Trump token launched on, and I believe also Melania. So Meteora, they end up having an investigation that supposedly some people who are associated with Meteora, the platform. So Meteora, I should explain. Meteora is a part of the suite of products under Jupiter, which is the big DeFi aggregator on Solana. And Meteora is kind of their pump.fun competitor. Meteora ended up having, I think, what was it, the lead developer or something? This guy, Ben Chow. He ended up being investigated and then fired, or I guess he resigned, because of accusations that he basically enabled this behavior. And as it may have insider traded or something, there's some, I didn't quite follow if this was proven or just an insinuation that there's some connection there.
Well, I saw on Twitter, and correct me if this is misinformation, but I saw that people had dug up that he had a huge history of like securities laws violations that he was charged with in the past.
That I have no idea. Okay. Let's not amplify anything that we're not totally confident in.
I don't know if that's true. So I will say, so Ben is a co-founder of Meteora. It was founded by him and Meow Ming, the founder of Jupiter. I actually knew Ben way before crypto because he used to actually run an insurance company startup that like I interviewed at a long time ago, like 2012. And he definitely did like normal tech startup stuff, not crypto, until basically 2021 when they started Meteora. So, and Meteora was kind of like existed for a while but couldn't get product market fit, whereas like Jupiter post FTX actually started growing a lot, because it became the only place to trade Solana coins because like they weren't listed on most exchanges other than FTX, not Solana itself, but like SPL tokens. And Meteora slowly over time grew more for, this kind of like early stage launch thing. But unlike Pump.Fun, right, is like have a bonding curve, people deposit, and then once it hits a certain threshold, it just goes to an AMM, and then no one controls AMM, right? So there's no admin key. Meteora like does have that, like the issuer kind of has some admin control over the pools and how much liquidity is in each pool, and so like that's why you can snipe it more easily in some ways. But yeah, I Ben was sort of the I would say this was more like the founder was sort of. Imagine if you had a board and like the founder was kicked out. This is not the same as like the developer was kicked out.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So I'm sorry, I apologize, missing a little bit of context. So the story, I think, is one that has cast a pall over meme coins generally. And I think after Libra, I think after Trump and Melania, people kind of had a bad taste in their mouth. I think after Libra, people seem to really feel like, okay, one, lifting the veil of all the interviews that Hayden was doing and basically explaining what meme coin boosters fundamentally do and the way in which the game is rigged against retail for all of these big meme coin launches. I think that really changed the vibe in crypto and changed people's perceptions about how meme coins fundamentally work and whether this market is sustainable for retail investors to keep playing at this quote unquote casino. And second, I think it's led to a lot of people now prognosticating something that, I've been saying on the show for quite a while, that meme coins are not sustainable and that the show is maybe coming to an end soon. in that this carousel of constant meme coins and new ones launching every single day and retail, having fun playing this game. It feels like the game it doesn't feel so fun anymore. It doesn't feel like people really believe that actually they can win at this game anymore.
Well, the illusion has been shattered. Yeah. I mean,
right.
People used to think that the meme coin game was one that was winnable. And now once the rock has been lifted and we're looking underneath of it and seeing all the bugs and all the really disgusting behavior and like how it actually works, people are grossed out. They realize that it's a completely rigged game, that they are victims, and that you really can't win.
I mean, in absolute terms, like the volumes on Pump.Fun are still pretty strong, right? You look at the Solana DEX volumes. I mean, everything has come down mostly just because volatility has come down. But it's sort of like what I'm seeing right now, and I'm curious how you guys perceive this, is that the sentiment has completely turned against meme coins. I think I see almost a complete reversal where people before were like, oh, fuck the tech coins, fuck the VC coins, everything's a meme coin. What's the difference between, some VC vaporware and a meme coin? And now I feel like, okay, that argument has just lost all of its valence. And people now are like, okay, I guess we kind of have to build real stuff again. Unfortunate. And at the same time, like the numbers aren't telling the same story though. The numbers seem to say, and this may just be like, okay, this sort of Wile E. Coyote thing, which is that it just takes some time for everybody to get the message and for the activity to really drop off. How are you guys interpreting this moment? Do you think this actually is the end? Do you think that if we see a macro reversal, prices come back, meme coins rebound a bit, that party comes back to life? What do you guys think happens?
I mean, I don't see how this can't be the inflection point. Like, it's such a toxic event that I think shifts the narrative. Just in the same way that FTX, yes, well, it was a bad actor, not a good actor. Like when FTX went down, it was the inflection point and shifted the entire narrative. And I think we're at that point with meme coins right now. I think very few people have the same level of enthusiasm that they did for putting product in air quotes here. I would not even call them products, but for the meme coin product. And I just can't see how there's the same level of capital that's going to go into these, knowing that it's at such a large negative EV.
Tarun, what's your take? Meme coins over?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I kind of think the interesting thing this shows is like the meme coins that have the least control, like Pump.Fun, seem to be able to survive, whereas the meme coins that need lots of management of like liquidity and like are not really fully autonomous are the ones that you kind of have this distinction with, which is why I think you see the Pump.Fun volumes not decaying that much. Is that like, I think there's a general agreement that maybe these more kind of fully decentralized mechanisms are better. That being said, though, I don't know what the demand is. I would say the thing I'm kind of more curious about, and prior to the Bybit today, we're starting to see the rotation back into infrastructure coins. Like all of them were up like crazy. Like Story Protocol is up like 200% yesterday at one point. So like all of these like infrastructure coins that everyone was kind of fudding and shitting on and saying would never be useful, like all had this huge rally in this week in response. So I thought that was like the market being like, we're moving out of meme coins in a more direct
in a sense.
I mean, all
like,
meme coins are down bad.
Yeah, meme coins attracted the hot ball of money capital, right? And now meme coins are basically toxic. And so that hot ball of money capital is going to find its way into other, verticals within crypto.
It's going to find hot balls wherever they are.
I hope not. I hope there's no meme coin called that.
Okay. Tom, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with Tarun. I mean, I think it sort of reminds me of Matt Levine always likes to talk about like, how do you define insider trading? It's obviously this spectrum. It's like if you overhear news on the train, is that insider trading versus, hey, do you have some sort of material knowledge? If you knowingly make a trade on it, is that insider trading? Or if you knowingly don't make a trade on positive news, is that insider trading? And obviously the law is still, these are like open cases that are sort of trying out these different components of it. But I was reminded of this, looking at this, there was another bubble map of this other guy. What was his name? Haseeb, who was not part of the team, but just independently sort of found out that, hey, like the Meteora team is interacting with these pools and sort of did his own independent sniping. And I think that kind of comes back to the pump point, which is people like playing fair games. They like playing transparent games. And when they don't feel like they can't make money anymore, then they're going to roll out. And this happened with ICOs, this happened with NFTs. And I think it's a marketplace. So if people aren't going to get excited and don't feel like, hey, there's any edge or there's any opportunity more, then that sort of destroys the entire market. So until that changes, I don't know who would launch a coin and as a result, who would buy that coin.
Yeah, it's interesting how you guys point out the difference between Pump.Fun and some of these managed launches, which are more, I mean, there's really more celeb coins, right? I mean, effectively Libra was kind of a celeb coin, although it, formally wasn't. It basically was with Malay.
It was a celeb coin in a sense. Yeah. I mean, it was trying to follow the like Trump playbook where it's like, this is the leader of the country. This is the official meme coin of the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think we can say with some confidence that this meta is dead. Or at least is losing steam very, very rapidly. If not,
I hope it's
already completely out of steam. Well, so there's also this story that was just broken by CoinDesk a couple days ago, or I think it was just yesterday, that Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, apparently he is planning to drop a meme coin. There's some or I should say, celeb coin. Thankfully, he has read the room and has realized that maybe it's not the best time to launch one right now immediately after this gigantic Libra scandal.
He doesn't seem to have much trouble launching anything at the wrong time, though. As we learned during the Super Bowl.
You would think that, but actually, I heard about this. I heard about this like over the weekend, and apparently he delayed because people were saying that he was going to launch it on Monday, and now it's Friday and he still hasn't launched it. So clearly, I mean, they say, the team says, where is this quote? Yeah, so it was quoted by CoinDesk. YZY delayed as the team debated whether it's quote unquote too close to the Malay thing. So clearly, they're responding at some level to the news cycle. But apparently I thought this was hilarious. It's called the YZY token. The details leaked after Yeezy's CFO accidentally tipped off CoinDesk. He emailed CoinDesk with a Yeezy official email basically giving them a document describing exactly what the plan was. And in the same email, asking for an embargo. CoinDesk said no to the embargo, and then just basically wrote the story. So just absolute amateur hour stuff. And for the tokenomics, 70% of the tokens will be owned directly by Ye, 10% for liquidity, 20% for investors. So apparently it's already been sold, 20% to investors. And of course, Ye, I mean, he's had all these sponsorships got lost because he's been tweeting neo-Nazi shit. He apparently just very recently announced, oh wait, no, I'm not a Nazi anymore. Somebody convinced me to not be a Nazi, but that also happened a couple years ago. Adam Sandler.
Really? It was Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler. Huh. He credits Adam Sandler for talking about Nazism, but he's done this before. So I feel like there's sort of a regression to the mean thing happening here. So I don't know. Whatever. Crypto is having a bad week. This is all I'm going to say.
The one thing I'll add to the Yeezy thing is just a few days ago, he tweeted that celeb coins are extractive of your community and are bad.
Yeah.
Days ago.
Yes, he did.
Following on the Libra thing. And just a couple days later, it comes out that Yeezy's going to drop his own coin that's extractive of his community and serves no purpose either. And so I just want to...
Does Yeezy have a community or like...
Yeah, he has fans. I mean, I just want to publicly acknowledge the hypocrisy and how gross it is.
Can we just, I mean, look, I know that, okay. I know that people hate this story. I know that people hate that he's dropping this meme coin, and I know that people will buy it anyway. Can people just please not buy the token? Like, please.
But you're going to be able to use the token in the Yeezy store for merchandise.
Please don't buy the token so we can be done with this whole fucking thing. Like, because if people buy this token, there will be more. This will not be the last one. But if we can just not buy this token, then this will be the last one, and we don't have to ever talk about this kind of thing anymore. And that I will be so grateful to all of you. Because I know there's a lot of people in the trenches who like listen to the show and they're like, yeah, I totally agree with you, and they go fucking buy the shit anyway. So
Yeah, people are profit motivated,
We just have to, guys, as an industry, we just have to come together to this one and not buy this one, just this one token, and then we can all be done. So
yeah, but the launch is going to get sniped, and they're going to dump it on people, and it's just going to be a fiasco.
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen the same thing happen now with Dave Portnoy, who we were talking about last week on the show. Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, we claimed last week that he's been basically just pump and dumping tokens onto his followers. He has continued to do that for the last week, and
he's been doing it
even more aggressively. Last week I was like, he kind of seems to be pumping dumping on his followers. This week he's like very, very pumping dumping on his followers. So he launched a token called Greed 2. He launched a token called Greed. He bought 35% of the supply, sold everything in one transaction, causing a massive crash. And then he just responded, you were all greedy, at least admit it. You bought a token called Greed. I dumped on you. What did you expect me to do? It's called Greed. Then he launched another token called Greed 2 after Greed collapsed. Pumping up that, it hit $28 million, then crashed after he sold everything. Then he then taunted his followers again. He then went on to Twitter Spaces, said that this whole thing was a lesson to his followers, called Memecoins to be just pure extractions. And he said that the people who are trading these are lazy fucks who don't want to get real jobs. So
no crying at the casino, basically.
No crying at the casino. No crying at the casino.
No.
Dave Portnoy.
Again, this is just FinDom. As we talk, this is even more explicitly FinDom than like the last week's.
I've seen actually that meme is now kind of penetrated through crypto Twitter, this FinDom meme of being a.
Thank you for your word choice there, Haseeb.
Yeah.
Really.
I wasn't going to point that out.
Yeah. No, it's look, I mean, I've been tweeting about this over the last week. Is that like I do think the meme coin cycle is cooked now. And I think it really comes down to this thing that I was saying on the show, like I think 9 months ago, where I was basically saying, look, this is a casino where every single slot machine is owned by a different person. And that's not sustainable. It's like every single slot machine owner will do the best they can to extract you as much as possible until you move on to the next one, because it's a one-shot game. Like if you're actually in a casino, the casino owner wants you to come back. They want to treat you well because they know that they have to earn your business. They have to earn your trust. But if you're gambling with somebody on the street corner and they'll know they're never going to see you again,
you're never getting free drinks in the Memecoin casino. There's just no free drinks.
That's right. There's no free drinks in the Memecoin casino. That's right.
No.
Right.
You get the drink.
The drinks are spiked. The drinks are spiked.
Maybe they're spiked, or it's like you kind of get tortured as you're playing the game. You know, it's like, I mean.
Okay,
what is Portnoy doing? What is Portnoy doing? Right?
He's insulting his victims.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean by like it's like the opposite of getting a free drink. It's like getting the glass thrown at your face.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to create an AI rendition of this for Tarun's sake.
I do think the FinDom AI.
I don't need any more of this.
Yeah. I do think someone's going to make a FinDom AI that is incredibly successful.
I look forward to that.
All right,
in my
Robert is telling you his investment, what investments he's looking for. You have to message him only.
Okay, if you're building a FinDom AI, please message me only.
Perfect. Okay, so I feel really exhausted by just all this shitty news. I'm also surprised at how well crypto's held up despite all of this. I think maybe it is, like you said, Tarun, just people are tired of buying these shitty do-nothing meme coins, and so now they're rotating into real stuff, and then maybe that's why crypto has had something of a bid over the last week. There's been a bit of a macro dump today, and I think that's also affecting crypto, but at least there's been one halo of good news, which has come on the regulatory front. So we've been talking again and again going into this year about how this is going to be the year of this regulatory reversal for crypto. We're finally seeing that. So the big news that just came out this morning was that the SEC is dropping their lawsuit against Coinbase. So this still now needs to be rubber stamped. This is not completely formal, but Coinbase announced it. I think we did basically all but confirmed. This, of course, is a huge signal that everything that we wanted as an industry is coming to bear. Right. So Coinbase was getting sued by the SEC for being an unregistered securities broker, for unregistered exchange, and basically facilitating unregistered securities transactions. That is now all getting reversed. Right. And so we're likely to see many of these other cases that have been brought by the SEC to be completely dropped. People are wondering, is it going to be, maybe they're going to lower the surface area of the cases. Maybe they're going to do settlements. But no, completely dropping the case is as bullish of a signal as you can give to the market that the SEC is going to get out of the way and let good actors thrive and work with them to create a positive environment for digital assets. So this is great to see from the SEC. We've also seen the nomination of Brian Quintenz to be the CFTC, which of course is likely to be the dominant regulator for crypto going forward. Quintenz was the head of crypto policy at A16Z Crypto. So, he was one of the foremost people who was on the side of pushing back against the administrative state during the time of the crypto inquisition that we saw over the last 4 years. So from the regulatory front, it's an awesome day. And again, sort of a sign of things to come. So I wanted to at least end on a positive note and get your guys' reactions from what we're seeing here for the light coming through the clouds in the future of crypto here.
Well, I'll just add two more things onto the pile of good regulatory backdrop here from the SEC side. So one is that they've revamped the crypto unit that was the one waging war against good actors as opposed to spending their time and energy pursuing fraud. And they revamped it into basically a digital fraud unit, which will include people doing bad things within crypto, but also any other sort of like online activities. But it seems like within the crypto focus, the focus is going back to fraud, which is, what everybody had been hoping for over the last 4 years is get the bad guys so that the good guys can flourish. And it's really interesting to see that that's sort of like the mindset from within the enforcement side of the SEC. And, the second is just a couple hours ago, Commissioner Peirce released a new statement, which, broadly outlines all the things that they want to see change. And it's a real sort of like policy working document for the industry itself to work with the crypto policy team to enable all sorts of things that should be existing, right? So it goes into broker-dealer rules, it goes into custody rules, it goes into trading rules, it goes into safe harbor rules, which have been discussed a long time ago. It goes into tokenization, it goes into crypto lending, it goes into, pretty much every possible area. And they're saying, come in and talk to us. We want to, develop good policy alongside the industry. And so, that's also like an incredibly nice breath of fresh air. And it shows that the rubber is hitting the road in a productive way, as opposed to just being talk, from a couple of weeks ago, like, oh, it's going to change. It is changing. And so, hopefully against this backdrop, we see good policy getting created. We see the good actors like Coinbase no longer being on the receiving end of an unnecessary and vindictive attack campaign. And hopefully there's more of a focus on stopping the bad guys again, which I think one of the reasons why we're in this Memecoin mess in the first place is that under the Gensler regime, they let bad actors basically operate in the open because they spent all of their time and budget and mindshare on building regulation by enforcement through case law against the biggest players they could. And so,
I'm the best players in the industry, as opposed to the Haydens of the world, or
bad Hayden, not good Hayden.
Bad Hayden. Yeah, other Hayden.
I mean, I will say, it was funny looking at good Hayden, meaning Uniswap Hayden's tweets, because normally he gets a ton of engagement, but he was getting ratioed on every single tweet because of like how crazy the Memecoin thing was.
I think people might have been confused about who was the Hayden involved.
It was very palpable that like a lot of people who entered the cycle after 2021 don't know who Hayden Adams is.
That's true. All the Solana Memecoin traders,
everyone who uses Phantom would never have a reason to know what Uniswap is, right?
Although Uniswap's deploying on Solana, I believe.
Are they?
You've just been chock full of rumors today. That
I feel like I read this somewhere.
Is that true? That sounds like misinformation.
I don't think so. I don't think. Yeah.
Let me go onto Twitter and take swaps.
Yeah,
this is about the same person who told you the Bybit person was bridging to Solana and they're trying to get everything going.
Yeah. What's going on, Robert?
I don't know. Maybe my like news feed on X.com, the Everything app, has been like poisoned by misinformation people because like my For You tab
is taking over your feed.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe Uniswap's not going to Solana. Maybe it was people saying they
I could never imagine that, to be honest. If that happened, I think my worldview would be. So
I apologize for misinformation if I've created any. Uniswap is not going to Solana.
But I guess I will give two anecdotal things, which is I went to a Solana developer conference this week, and then I also am going to Ethereum developer conference next week. Actually, we'll have a live show there, so we can give a vibes update when we're all there. But the Solana developer event was like, I would say like it completely packed, and there wasn't like people were not really talking about the Memecoin side. So like I feel like there is this thing about ecosystems that are resilient, where like there's like the people who are working on building infrastructure and apps who are just completely oblivious to the market side of stuff, and I think any successful ecosystem has to have like a pretty significant portion of those people. And I think like, the vibes did not seem like that negative from this whole thing, which I think is like generally good for him. from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like it's too early for there to be any real vibe shift on the infrastructure side. Like, you haven't really seen outflows from Solana. You haven't really seen DEX volumes meaningfully diverge between Ethereum and Solana. Like, they've kind of moved down together, but I think it's mostly a function of volatility. Obviously, today, very different story, given that, this attacker is like moving, it was clipping like $40 million a pop of staked ETH into ETH. So I guess Ethereum maybe did good volume today, unfortunately. Tom, give us, the people are hurting. What's your message of hope?
I didn't have a message of hope ready. I was going to say the timing on all this news is also very funny. The Coinbase news came out at like 8 a.m. Eastern. Markets were rallying. People were very like just jubilant and are like, "Oh, great! This is what we're looking for." And then like 2 hours later, like the Bybit hack happens and it just reinforces.
Yeah, okay, this is opposite of hope. Give me
no good news.
There's never a
Give us
day.
hope.
Give me hope. Well, I think I'm pretty bearish on this easy coin happening or getting any traction. So. Maybe we, the last Celeb coin has actually turned off the lights and we can move on to talking about something else.
No, Yeezy's definitely going to launch a coin because he sees it as a path to easy money. I know it's going to happen. It has to.
I do think it launches. It almost certainly launches. The question is like, how badly does it stumble?
Totally. If investors have already bought it behind closed doors, it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe it's more like what is the sound of the last Celeb coin launching, and it's like no one buying it. And I think that's maybe more what I'm thinking of is I think overall just sentiment has soured so much that maybe this will deter everyone else. So if Yeezy's the last Celeb coin, I can live with that.
Yeah, Tarun, you were going to go on the LA Vape Cabal show. I assume that did not happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, they're gone. LA Vape Cabal collapsed.
The LA Vape Cabal. So actually, we should reiterate. The LA Vape Cabal apparently was like also connected to the Kelsier Ventures world ecosystem in some way. I don't exactly understand how, but they were like affiliated / connected / they were buying the token or tweeting about it or something weird.
So
I don't know exactly what happened.
All I have to say is my favorite thing about the episode where I went and said like, okay, Solana's the Gen Z chain and all the ETH chains are millennial and older, is that after that episode, a ton of people were like, I'd never heard of this LA Vape Cabal thing. And then like 3 days later, like, wow, you guys really top ticked the LA Vape Cabal because like you mentioned it
Yes,
like
we did. Yes, we did. Yeah. Holy shit.
Listen, once the chopping block learns about something, it's no longer part of like the
it's
cool
already
kids
over.
club.
It's already over.
Out.
That's right.
Yeah, we
this
are
is no
top
longer the show for emerging trends, unfortunately.
No,
yeah.
all of us are boomers.
We are explaining things already in the rearview mirror to the other boomers. That's our show. But it's funny because like when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's a funny name. They're calling themselves a cabal. How ironic. It turns out like they actually were the LA Cabal. They actually were the Memecoin Cabal. And now the whole like it's also, not cool anymore to call yourself a cabal. Even it's too close to home.
The bad Hayden is also from LA, right? So it's like it's like everyone's from LA, which is like funny.
That's right.
Like I never think of anything in crypto that's good from LA, and this is only reinforcing my stereotype.
All right. Well, I'm hoping we don't have a lot of LA listeners who are going to drop the show after this. All right. Well, hopefully by next week, things calm down. And we're really hoping that you guys do not buy the Yeezy meme coin. We'll check back in to see if anyone bought it. But until then, please don't, please don't, but just whatever you do, please don't buy that coin. Until then, see you all next week. Stay safe, everybody.